Welcome to the WebRTC BackRooms, a podcast deep scrolling into XR, AI, and the future of hanging out in the spatial internet.
The podcast slips behind the polished interfaces of contemporary tech and AI to uncover the disquieting depths beneath.
Wandering through online spaces and digital cultures, we turn WebRTC protocols into peer-to-peer spaces of gathering, an alternative beyond mainstream platforms.
Here, we meet investigative artists, researchers, writers, and architects to explore the uncanny ways we inhabit an increasingly tangled world.
We are Me and Other Me, Cenk Güzeliş and Anna Pompermayer.
And today, we welcome you to the backrooms of Internet Aesthetics and Liminal Spaces with Valentina Tanni.
A CRT monitor flickers in the corner of a room that doesn't quite exist. The carpet is damp, with a strange weight of nostalgia, lit by the sterile buzz of fluorescent tubes. Somewhere in the distance, a warped TikTok audio slows to a surreal drool. The space feels familiar but impossible, stitched together from deep-fried memes, forgotten YouTube clips, and the eerie emptiness of the backrooms. It is absurd, funny, and unsettling all at once.
Our guest today, Valentina Tanni, has been mapping these kind of places for years. Art historian, curator, writer, researcher, she treats memes, vaporwave landscapes, weirdcore collages, and other internet aesthetics not as marginal curiosities, but as core visual culture of our time. In Memestetica, she traced the lineage from Duchamp to TikTok, revealing memes as form of digital folklore, collective experiments in humor, critique, and meaning-making. In Exit Reality, Tanni ventured further into the uncanny terrains of online visual culture. Dreamlike, glitch-ridden spaces that are as much emotional states as they are aesthetics. Liminal places where nostalgia and eeriness coexist.
Through her work, Valentina asks how these images and environments shape our perception of reality, how they become conceptual tools for imagining the future, and how the internet itself has become a liminal space, a portal we inhabit continuously. Today, we will explore these topics with her, from the haunted comfort of vaporwave bedrooms to the politics of meme logic, and from allure of the backrooms to the shifting thresholds between the physical and the digital spaces.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Valentina.
Thank you for having me.
You wrote that the backrooms is my favorite creepypasta. Legend has it that if you are not careful and accidentally, of course, no clip out of reality, you can end up in the backrooms. And here we are, we slipped into our own WebRTC BackRooms. We chose this name for this format because it felt like the perfect metaphor, a place that is somehow just behind the surfaces of reality and where we can slip behind the polished surfaces of technology and look at what lies underneath. The place is built on open real-time communication protocols, is both in a way a platform and a back corridor that offers us and everyone that is willing to join a space for discourse on internet culture, XR, the future of artificial intelligence, and much more. We thought that it would be a good idea to start with building your personalized backrooms. Let's start
Let's do it.
with the wall of memes.
Okay, there comes the wall of memes.
Then
here it is.
Some nostalgic retro feeling.
Of course, vaporwave scenography. Clippy
Clippy is back there, observing us. A PC with a backroom video. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So, we are ready. Here we are.
So let's begin our conversations with the backrooms themselves. What drew you to this internet myth and what makes it such a compelling way to think about our digital condition in a way?
As you know, I have always been interested in internet culture in general. And I graduated back in 2002 with a thesis on internet art. And I have always been really fascinated by how how varied it is, because in fact it should be maybe better to use the plural, internet cultures, because there are so many different ones, right? So about the backrooms specifically, I was of course already familiar with creepypastas and other similar phenomenons, and also I was researching into the concept of lore. So I was very aware of the existence of these giant collaborative narratives and collaborative writing and collaborative imagining that is taking place on the internet. But what makes I think, Backrooms lore so fascinating to me, it's its richness and its variety, and the fact that this specific mythology resonates so profoundly with so many people, right? And I think that one of the reasons is that on one level, it kind of evokes the myth of the labyrinth, and also it evokes the concept of infinity, that it's also a concept that human beings are kind of struggling with since the dawn of times. But at the same time, the Backrooms lore also contains a lot of contemporary culture. It is shaped by video game culture in a very profound way. It is connected to the entire aesthetics of 3D rendering, of procedural generation. It connects with how video games are simulating space, and not to mention the countless references to horror literature and horror movies, right? So it's very, it's charged with a lot of different references, right? So I think that this is why it is so fascinating, and that's probably why it attracted my attention.
Yeah, and then there is how you reach the backroom, that I think that is so brilliant, no? The no clipping.
Yes. That's a gaming reference, right? The original backroom post, like the first one that had not only the image but also a caption, says that you might end up in the backrooms if you no clip out of reality. You're in a game and you are maybe passing through a wall or through an object, or you're kind of able to ignore the limits of the game space, right? Or you can exit the entire space of the game and end up in another place that it's basically nowhere, for example under the floor, or up of the ceiling. So you can kind of escape the borders, right, of the game environment. So no clipping is, metaphorically speaking, if we take the game thing and we bring it to the real physical world, if we would no clip in reality, we would end up in a place that it's mysterious and it's kind of out of reality. It's an other world that we don't know anything about. And the original meme says that you can end up there accidentally if you're not paying attention, right? But it doesn't explain how not to, what should you do to kind of try to not end up in the backrooms, right? So that is part of the mystery. And this place is not infinite, but is so big that it might feel like it's infinite. Is kind of, someone said that the extension is kind of 3-4 times the extension of the Earth.
Somehow it reminds me of the Library of Babylon by Borges as well.
That's one reference that a lot of people, of course, connected immediately. The Library of Babel by Borges is this idea that if we combine our the letters of the alphabet and all the the components of our language, you can go into this infinite recombination and produce every book possible, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it can resonate with kids nowadays that are playing video games and are themselves wandering into these endless corridors, right? When you're playing this kind of first-person shooter games, sometimes you find, especially the horror ones, you find yourself alone in these empty spaces, and you wander around and you don't know if there are monsters hiding behind corners. So I think that this kind of relationship between ancient elements and contemporary culture works really well in capturing people's imagination. Like personally, as a researcher, I was also really fascinated with the investigation, right, that internet users conducted for years to try to find the origin of the photograph. That was another amazing adventure, like this incredible rabbit hole. I don't know if you ever saw that, but there is a shared Google document that everyone can access, and in that document you find all the clues and all the information and all like the thing that have been discovered during the years, or the attempts that users have been making to try to find the original like the location where the photo was taken, because now we know the location, right? But for many years it was unknown. So a large community, mostly gathering on Discord channels, has been posting updates about these collective investigation. And so we have this monstrous, gigantic Google Doc with all these information. And I think that it's the most interesting like Google Doc on the internet. It's such an incredible journey.
The book Exit Reality, I think, also delves so much more into the aesthetics of the internet culture, right? You visit different types of cores and waves, like vaporwave, weird core, dream core, core, obsessions with ASMR, backrooms, and liminal spaces that are not marginal curiosities, but rather the core of contemporary visual culture and digital culture. And you write that they're not just escapist fantasies either, but bottom-up experiments that try to reconfigure our relationship to the reality itself. They are constantly remixing and born from the collective imagination of millions of people contributing to it. So building on that, how do you see these aesthetics functioning as both symptoms of certain alienation, maybe some kind of like surveillance capitalism and emotional disconnect, and at the same time still an expressive tool for communities to kind of process some kind of belonging or longing?
Sure. Of course, like the whole issue of surveillance capitalism, and generally speaking, the fact that we live in a technological environment that it's heavily controlled by a few very powerful companies, and that algorithms are kind of regulating what we see, and are also having a huge influence also on the things that we create and distribute and see. We need to like always take into account that the environment is there and is kind of influence what we do. But having said that, I think that people are still producing original content, and are still kind of finding ways of connecting with other people and expressing themselves, and also people are continuously finding ways to kind of free themselves from certain constraints. About internet aesthetics, I think that they are you're right when you use the word symptoms. I also use that word. I think that they tell us something about the cultural atmosphere that we live in, and a particular way of seeing the world, of feeling about the world. And so they kind of function like visual symptoms of how we feel in the world right now. And this is why I decided to investigate this specific aspect of contemporary culture. For example, the obsession with liminality is connected to this feeling of being stuck, right? Of being powerless, of living in very uncertain times, right? That like we are living in very difficult times that are politically difficult, we are socially really complicated, and we have the ecological crisis that it kind of course, worries everyone every minute of the day. But at the same time, we are also We also always have this feeling of being stuck, that time doesn't really work as it used to. And in the book, I, of course, reference Mark Fisher on this, right? This idea that in the contemporary moment, since we are always kind of rethinking the past continuously, we are always remixing existing things, and we have the feeling that we might be able to explore time and space virtually through the internet, and we have access to most of human culture, right? That it's archived online. This can give us the impression that time is not working in a linear fashion, but that we can kind of course, virtually with our imagination, with our thoughts, travel through time, and we can kind of recall situations. We can conjure certain vibes, atmosphere from different historical periods. I think that this kind of messes up our conception of time. This can happen on a subconscious level, but it happens a lot. So to go back to this idea of liminality, we feel like we are kind of in a liminal space between two things, and we don't know how long we are going to be there. This is also connected to the backrooms, right? So you are in a place that it's mysterious, and that you don't feel safe, and you don't know anything about the future. You don't know if that liminality is going to become permanent in a way, right? That's one aspect. But in internet aesthetics, we also find other sentiments, feelings, and ideas. For example, nostalgia is the obvious one. We are surrounded with vaporwave elements, right? So nostalgia is a key element, and the interesting aspect of contemporary nostalgia, I believe, and I tried to explain it in several parts of the book, is that nostalgia nowadays not just about wanting to go back in the past, but it's more about this tendency to time travel with your mind. It's more about imagination than about memory. Now we have that mixed with imagination. So it's like this feeling of nostalgia that it's also projected on places and times that we never actually experienced. This is why young people, you might find online a lot of young people that are maybe born 20 years ago, and they state that they are nostalgic for the 90s.
Yeah.
And of course, they never lived through that historical time. But since they've been collecting traces through the internet, they feel like they can kind of understand the vibe.
Right.
They can kind of get the vibe, and they feel nostalgic for a time they never knew.
Yeah.
And this is very present in a lot of internet aesthetics, right?
Yeah.
We have been reading and rereading your book, and you describe in a way these aesthetics also as conceptual tools we use to imagine the future. So it's not only about the past and the present and a way of going back and forth, but also a way of somehow going further and imagining what could happen. And we are wondering if you could unpack this a little bit, maybe give us a glimpse about what kinds of future you think are being shaped or hinted at through these visual languages, cores, processes, and everything that is around them.
What these aesthetics do, in my view, is that they influence our structure of thinking, but as I already said, on the level of the subconscious. It works more like a dream. It's not even a desire. It's something between a premonition, a vision, a sentiment. You know, when you wake up from a dream that felt really real, and you kind of feel that that dream might have prophetic traits, right? I think that this is how we use these aesthetics in relation to the future. We feel that something might be there as a clue, right? But we don't know exactly what the dream is trying to say to us. If the future was a place, I think we tend to visualize it as this empty labyrinth or a very complicated video game. Or sometimes we also envision it, when we feel a bit more optimistic, it becomes a very peaceful green hill, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. I think it's interesting that there, at some point it happened, this shift when we stopped sharing also this kind of very deep feeling through words, but we adopted various constantly mutating visual languages on the internet to be able to express those feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
That was lost in a way their power, no? The visual language was prevailing, or is prevailing in a way.
Exactly.
And I think the memes has then become a kind of language of its own, right? Like we just spoke about the Library of Babylon as a kind of endless library that can fulfill the observable universe if you would produce books out of the letters of the alphabet. And then now comes the memes that kind of adds another layer, and you treat in your book the memestetica, the memes, as a kind of like almost as their own language. You would describe probably the logic of the memes and how they shape the way we communicate today. Especially like if you consider like how they circulate, reshaping the culture in deep ways, but also especially like the ways in which they got politicized, right? Like you can today see such thing as the Pepe the Frog, like what started as a kind of innocent meme has been politicized deeply by alt-right. I'm very curious to hear about like the trends in which they get politicized.
Yeah. So answering this question would take an entire new book. it is so complicated.
Right.
In the sense, like when I wrote Memestetica, I was immersed in a different environment, meaning that yes, I was already starting to see memes weaponized for propaganda, and also memes becoming a more charged language. We find memes basically everywhere.
Right.
And in that sense, they are a language. They are a shared language. The logic of memes is rooted in appropriation. When you are stealing, quote unquote, something, you are always changing the meaning. Sometimes you do it in a subtle way, so it's not very visible, or it's just a small twist. Or sometimes you can kind of twist the meaning entirely. Then we have the problem of irony.
Yeah.
The levels of irony they keep on stacking layers, so that now a lot of the memetic language is also turning into something that is not only not comprehensible to everyone. It's not just about being like, maybe a meme is niche, and if you have the references, you get it. If you don't, you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm referencing another meme. It's not just that. It's that some memes are designed to be confusing. So memes can be simple jokes, they can be obscure statements, they can be very compressed philosophical thoughts, they can be propaganda tools. Sometimes they are designed to deceive and to kind of spread misinformation, but they can also be just part of a language that people use to communicate. Right. So memes are all these things together. So you see how it's getting difficult to talk about memes in general.
Yeah.
There has been also a lot of discussion about what the so-called sludge content on platforms like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, those kind of hyper-fast edits with multiple videos, texts, and sounds layered on top of each other. How do you see this? Do you see this as a pure attention capturing mechanism, or as some kind of new visual language shaped by the interaction between our brains and, in a way, the platforms themselves? We found on your website the simulation clicker, that is this art project that playfully exposes the logic of the clickbait and attention economy, showing how images can be rapidly recycled and reframed. So how, in a way, do you see this content differing from memes and traditional remix culture?
So the simulation clicker is amazing in the sense that it turns into a game, and it shows you how addictive it is, right? So that's a very good way to also kind of make people aware of how their attention is fragmented all the time. About sludge content, I would say both. Sludge content is a video that it's in which the screen is divided in two or more parts, and you have different kinds of content going on at the same time. So you might have one person talking about something, and then on the other side you might have an ASMR content of someone maybe, I don't know, playing with slime. And this connects to this short attention span issue that you were mentioning, of course, because people, like over time, they develop this habit of consuming content very rapidly. And so you lose the ability to concentrate on a piece of content for a long period of time. So some users found that if you are listening to something, but at the same time you are watching another piece of content that it's kind of capturing your eyes, right? That helps you keep the focus. It doesn't work for everyone, but most people, especially younger generation, that people that have been growing up multitasking constantly, right? Instead, they feel very comfortable in that kind of situation. They are able to concentrate, like to kind of allocate part of their brain power on the words, and at the same time being entertained visually, right, by the other piece of content. And that, of course, is a natural something that emerged naturally from the media ecosystem. But at the same time, it is turning into a visual language, and also we could connect it to the practice of a lot of avant-garde directors of the past that have been experimenting with similar concepts. So yeah, to answer your question, I would say that it's both. It's a side effect of our media ecosystem, but it's also maybe turning into a visual language.
Yeah, for me, it might still require some superpowers that I don't have, but maybe I will develop them in a couple of years.
I don't know. I think it's a lot about how your brain works in the first place. Yeah, and for me, for example, I have been changing in that respect, because I used to be a person that needed silence to concentrate. Now, for example, when I write, and this is also mentioned in the book, in the last page of Exit Reality, I mentioned the fact that now if I need to write something, especially long, complex pieces such as the book, I need to have something in my ears. So now I listen to Arctic sounds. And if I don't have those kind of sounds in my ears, I really cannot function.
So the latest book that you published, Conversazioni con la macchina, il dialogo dell'arte con le intelligenze artificiali, is drawing from the rich, so you draw these rich metaphors that explore somehow our relationship with artificial intelligence, from the computer as our mirror or alter ego, to the artist as a shaman casting creative spells with artificial intelligence, or even the machine as an offspring we nurture in an infinite recursive learning loop with us. We are wondering if you have one specific metaphor that you personally find most illuminating for describing our fast evolving, often also unsettling relationship with artificial intelligence today.
Yeah, the book you mentioned, in English, the title would be Conversations with the Machine. And it's a short essay about AI in art. I decided to focus on the relationship between the artist and the machine and investigate that thing specifically in the form of collaboration. Ditch this idea of the machine that it's going to replace the artist and that it's going to replace art and maybe make art autonomously. I am completely dismissing this idea, and I'm more interested in understanding what happens when artists are actively deciding to build a relationship with the machine. So it's a dialogue. That's the initial idea. And my favorite one is for sure the metaphor used by Harold Cohen. Harold Cohen, he is a British artist, but he has been working mainly in the United States, and he is considered the absolute pioneer when it comes to AI art. It was not working with machine learning. He was working with symbolic AI, so it was a kind of a different technology. But he's considered one of the very first artists to really engage in a profound and continuous investigation about what the artist can do, right, with the machine. And so he had this machine, a painting, a drawing and a painting machine that he built and programmed himself entirely. Cohen has always been thinking about this thing as a collaborator. So instead of following this logic of replacement, he tried to have a dialogue to see what kind of art and culture can come out of this particular encounter. And he used to say that the machine was his other self. I found this concept really fascinating. In those cases, creativity doesn't lie in the artist nor in the machine alone, but it's always in between. It's in this conversational space between the two, right? Really like in a dialogic way. Because it's not interesting. Like, why should we want to outsource artistic process to the machine? It doesn't really make sense, right? But I also believe that technology is culture. Technology is not something that is separated from culture, right? So computers aren't these kind of alien machines that are coming from outer space, right? And are going to just invade us. Let's leave aside the problem of who is deciding the kind of machines we should use, because that would take another podcast. But machines, they exist in a symbiotic relationship with our culture, right? So we need to investigate the relation. We need to establish a relationship with these things, and hopefully a profound one, like to be aware of what the machine does. So that for this reason, I think that the collaborator metaphor is the best one.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, no matter what, we are going to use these tools. They are so radicated into our society that most of them, not all of them, I mean, there is still choices to be made, but there are things that has become unavoidable. So the idea of exploring them and understanding what they mean should be something that everyone does in a way.
Sure, and that's partly the topic of my next book. That it will be out in Italian mid-November, and it's all about trying to appropriate technology and maybe even misuse it. Because that's the way I think we should act towards technology, like not following instructions. Yeah, hijacking, misinterpreting, misusing, or just sometimes even breaking the thing to see how it works.
Nice.
It's about disrespecting technology. I like to use the expression disrespect technology. Right? Yeah.
Looking forward.
I have a very long question, so I apologize already about this kind of, I don't know if you would agree, but as a misuse of the technology, or like maybe weird use of technology, which is the AI slop. So as early large language models and image diffusion models accelerated the creation of high volume but low quality written content and images, we see terms like AI garbage, AI pollution, and AI generated dross emerging. And one of them is AI slop. Early uses of the term slop as a descriptor for low-degrade AI material apparently came in reaction to the release of AI image generators in 2022. And Al-Hassan Elvan writes about AI as, I quote, the displacement of human subjectivity as the sole meaning maker. Spam, bots, moderating bots, dynamic pricing algorithms are all operationally autonomous simulacral subsystems where signals circulate, mutate, and affect outcomes without any necessary tether to human being. As Trump said, everything is computer. We have all seen stage 5 mechanism exemplified in the recent feed infection known as slop. Slop is what happens when an algorithm is trained to maximize engagement in a context where meaning, intention, and authorship are treated as irrelevant. Slop is cheap, fast, and frictionless. It flattens the sublime and the stupid into the same effectless stream. It is not just content, it is control. Slop is a tool of power. So in its visual expression, we saw many such as shrimp Jesus memes and lately so-called Italian brainrot, which is a series of surrealist internet memes that emerged in early 2025, characterized by absurd videos of AI-generated creatures who are given pseudo-Italian names and Italian voiceovers, grotesque and humorous visuals, abstractivism, and nonsensical narrative. Given the futurist glorification of war, which Marinetti himself described as the only cure for the world, it all begins to feel a bit sinister, especially when you consider that AI has been dubbed as the new aesthetics of fascism. When you look at these new meme ecologies from shrimp Jesus to Italian brainrot, do you see them also as some kind of empty AI slopes or are as strange aesthetic experiments that might be telling us something about power, memory, and the future of images?
There's a lot of confusion when people talk about AI generated images. So we have AI generated images, we have AI art, we have AI slop, and then we have these Italian brain rot phenomenon and others. All these things could be defined differently. So I think that there's a lot of confusion. And I think that this confusion is not helpful to understand these phenomena. Slop as I understand it, slop is really a kind of content that is produced with no intention of producing something interesting. It's just about producing more stuff that can capture people's attention. So it is about capturing people's attention, and it's really polluting the internet with a lot of stuff that is circulating that doesn't really have any sense and that is just made to accumulate clicks and to earn money, because there are slop factories. Like if you go on YouTube, you find dozens, I think maybe hundreds, I don't know how many are there, but a lot of videos that people, with people that are teaching you how to produce slop and how to make money with it. It has to do with the politics of the platforms, yes. But it's not something that I think we should analyze in connection with issues of control or whatever. That is the byproduct of a digital, of a media, of a platform ecosystem in which monetizing is the first goal, and the number of views is the thing that is rewarded. Then, of course, in the context of these chaotic production of spam, sometimes we can get accidental, interesting images, such as the shrimp Jesus kind of thing, or other surreal images. They have this weird, unsettling, uncanny aesthetic. Sometimes they are so absurd and ridiculous that they kind of turn into something interesting. But I think that that's like a side effect, right? So this is slop. Then we have another kind of AI generated image production that it's related to propaganda. When we see people producing images with the intention of spreading political ideas of certain kind. So we see the images, I don't know, with Donald Trump saving the kittens or saving people from the flood, or Kamala Harris that is dressed as a communist. All those kind of things were designed to spread a specific kind of propaganda. Sometimes it's not direct propaganda. It can be a way of just, doing some ironic commentary. And a lot of, especially right-wing parties have been using that kind of aesthetic to support their claims and to post on their Instagram feeds. And that's the reason why a lot of people are making this connection between AI-generated images and the right wing. But I think that this is not really connected to the aesthetic itself. So all this comparison with futurism, I'm not really convinced by it. I mean, I think it's a superficial kind of comparison. I'm an art historian. I've been studying a lot that kind of artistic production, and also the relationship between futurist aesthetic and fascism is also a very complicated one. It's not so straightforward as some people tend to think. So I think that comparison is a bit superficial. Having said that, there is a lot of AI-generated political imagery that leans to the right. And it's true that a lot of people on the right are more than happy to embrace that aesthetic because it's an aesthetic that it's very standard, I would say, right? It's very comprehensible. The image that these models are producing are full of stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of aesthetic aligns with some of the values that the rights are talking about and pushing, right? So it kind of fits their narrative really well. And also, I don't know if you noticed that, but a lot of people on the left are, and I can understand that, they are more cautious in their approach to AI because they are worried about who controls the tools. We are worried about the energy consumption. We are worried about the bias in the data sets. So generally speaking, the left is a bit more cautious about the use of these tools. And finally, about Italian brain rot, that's a different phenomenon. Yeah. It is, of course, connected because they are using the same tools. And in that, it is true that that some of these memes in their original iteration, they contained racist and also some cursing to different religions. So they were really questionable in content, especially the Tralalero Tralala and Bombardiro Crocodilo, exactly. the original ones that contained words that to an Italian speaker sounded really, really offensive. And also the crocodile one contained references to Gaza. So there are controversial components. But again, we can connect it to the thing that I was saying about memes earlier. A lot of memers are using politically provocative, politically incorrect language all the time. So it's something that was already there in the memetic world well before the arrival of AI. And also, I think that the original memes were produced by a community of very young people that were just trying to be edgy and to sound provocative. So this is my understanding of the thing. Having said that, of course, memes can be appropriated and reused differently. So if originally it wasn't that kind of a big thing, they can be weaponized. So we need to always be very alert on how these memes are used. On the creative side, I'm really fascinated by the whole Italian brain rot lore. And I think it's another case, another very interesting case of collective creation of a mythology, a story, a narrative, characters. And I was really struck by the fact that in just 3 months, I saw this thing emerging from the depths of the internet. And after just 3 months, my daughter, she's 10, she asked me to buy them toys.
There's even I think now theater production for kids with the costumes of all the characters. Yeah, I think my concern was initially of course, as you said it, the kind of excessive use of all sorts of AI models from text to image to video, and then AI voiceover, text to speech, all coming to a content. But then they are very charged subliminally with some kind of meaning, where Cappuccina Ballerina is actually a serial killer, and Crocodilo Bombardino is bombing kids. So and then we see suddenly a theater production for kids that are kind of being imposed to.
It's a very complicated moment for parents around the world because that's really not a simple way to protect them from harmful messages and things that can be embedded in other things that might seem harmless. And those things are everywhere. Right. So yes, that's a concern, of course. But I don't think that it's specific to the Italian brain rot phenomenon. There's so much harmful content online that can harm kids.
That's why, I think the whole attention economy behind this is based on the rage and anger.
This is a reaction that I see more in adults, kids are having so much fun. They think that's fun. No, really. They think it's fun because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's the power of nonsense. I have been investigating this thing in meme aesthetics a lot because nonsense was a big part of memes well before that.
You recently posted that AI-generated ASMR is by far the most interesting genre of visual content on social media at the moment. Why did you find it so interesting?
So I have been talking about ASMR in Exit Reality 2 because I find the trend really interesting for a lot of reasons. I am not personally into that. I don't find a pleasure in watching ASMR. I like ambience videos more and ambient sounds, so I'm not really into that personally. But there's this new kind of ASMR that it's made through the use of AI-generated videos and sounds that instead I find really interesting and fascinating because people are producing these videos that are very kind of similar to the way surrealism used to approach the world of objects. For example, you might find like a watermelon that it's made of a texture, like it's like a plushie, but it's a watermelon and people are cutting through it. Or you might find things that are made of glass, but they are also being cut in front of the screen with a specific sound. You might find people sleeping in beds made of lava or made of, I don't know, water or clouds. So ASMR is still exploring materials. And people used to do that by hand, like with actual materials in the past, manipulating different kinds of materials with their hands, so slimes and liquids. And now they can simulate any material with AI, and they are creating the most absurd combinations. And it's really fascinating because it kind of reminds me about what the surrealists were doing when I don't know if you're familiar with the fur-covered cup.
Yes.
Right. By Meret Hoppenheim. Like you have an unexpected encounter between those two things that don't belong. That thing is really messing up with your sensorium. So you are kind of instinctively attracted to some part of it and you are repulsed by another part of it. The thing is weird and fascinating, and it kind of evokes the feeling of touching things, of hearing the sound. Like it stimulates all your senses that are normally not involved when you are on the internet.
Valentina, before we end, I have one last question about the Endcore. So Shimon Bazar describes Endcore as living in an extreme present, where changes accelerate faster than we can process it, reality feels unstable, and endings never quite arrive. What do you think about the idea of the Endcore, and does it resonate with the way you see culture unfolding today?
Generally speaking, yes. I mean, I don't think that anyone can deny the existence of that sentiment. And I also was referring to a similar idea earlier when I was mentioning Mark Fisher and this idea of being stuck in time, and it's not exactly the same, but it's connected. On the other hand, I think that, and that includes me, we are, a lot of people are maybe getting a little bit carried away by this idea of us just looking towards apocalypse. And that's also in core and other aesthetics. So I understand the sentiment, and I also have been expressing similar thoughts several times. So I include myself in this critique. But I don't know, I think we might start to wonder if that's an easy solution, like theoretically speaking. And maybe we might want to be more, I don't know, to kind of leave this thing aside for a moment, even if it's really difficult, and try to build maybe a new theoretical idea about the future, even if the future really looks like it's the end.
Yeah, but I think it resonates a lot with this notion of extreme present that is so thick.
Yes.
That everything we live in is today, and then tomorrow is completely different trend. Also, if you look at if something is today a core and not a core tomorrow, then it's not a trendy anymore. So exactly. That cuts off a lot of hope about future. But I agree that we should not cut off the.
Completely.
Find a way to make a step.
Or I don't know, maybe change the point of view and look at the same apocalyptic stuff from another point of view. I don't know. I don't know. Of course, I don't have an answer.
No.
And I totally understand. I also get that feeling. It's undeniable. It's there. But at the same time, like if we speak about contemporary theory, this idea, like we have been kind of saying this for, I don't know, decades now. So maybe we should try to find a way around it, but that's also an open question for everyone. The next book, as I said, it's a different one. It's more connected to my roots. As I said, I graduated with a thesis on internet art, on net art. And so I've been studying the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s a lot. And there was this tactical media approach, right? And this idea of hacking technology. And in a way, to most people, it might sound like an old thing. But instead, what I try to demonstrate in the book is that instead we need to kind of take that thing back, even if we live in a different ecosystem and technology is much more pervasive and our tools are much more closed and like the entire ecosystem is different, so we cannot think in the same way. But the idea was good. The idea was right. So we shouldn't ditch good ideas. We should adopt them.
Yeah.
It is, I hope, in a way, a little bit what we are trying to do with the format of this podcast.
Yes.
In the sense that we, this kind of, we use the technology, but all the data that we basically absorb, we stream to our private server. They don't get touched by anyone, and we don't store them. And the space is not an open space that it's subject to the gaze of everyone. It's still a private-based type of virtual room.
Sure.
Where everything can happen.
Sure, that's really important.
Exactly. We should not escape it completely, but still be in it, practice it.
Yeah. And also messing with it a little bit.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Valentina. We appreciate you a lot. And thank you so much for having time for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It has been great.
Great conversation. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.